Every traveler, rightfully, has different priorities on vacation. If you prioritize seclusion, sprawling grounds, high-touch thoughtful service, and at the same time, value, then the Oberoi Lombok might be the perfect choice for you. In this full review, I'll tell you about what I love and what I don't love so much about this very unique resort. By the way, every hotel or resort that I've ever reviewed on the channel has been done without the hotel's prior knowledge, and the price that I paid is always in the description. Let me welcome any of you that might be new to the channel. My name is Kevin. I'm here to give you a self-funded and honest look at some of the best, most unique, or simply most popular airlines and hotels in the world, which I've been bringing to you full-time for going on 5 years. I'd love for you to know more about how I do things on the channel, so simply scan the QR code or check out my hundreds of videos to do so. Let's get into the tour. Oberoi is truly one of the most unique hospitality brands on earth, from their storied history, to their landmark locations, to their guest as God service mantra. It's a brand that consistently receives accolades for being one of the best out there. I agree, except for one thing. A note that I wrote down while I was here. Quote, Oberoi is the brand that has thought about absolutely everything, but they often forget what century they're currently in. Unquote. Operating an old-school brand in this day and age sets them apart, and in some ways is admirable. I simply take issue with some choices that they consistently make, or don't make, in their rooms. This is my one and only gripe with them, but for me it's a big one. We're now in the far northwest of the island of Lombok, a short 75-mile flight or ferry ride away from Bali. Lombok is said to be what Bali was 20 years ago, and the vibe and pace here at the Oberoi demonstrates that very well. Tradition is the name of the game here, and it starts off with an open-air lobby which faces a series of ponds and pools before reaching the sea. You'll be greeted with a welcome drink, and the check-in procedures will be completed as you sit facing the view. What you're looking at here is not actually the pool. You can't see it from this angle, but this is a pond that then changes to a pool and then changes back to a pond. This is just a personal aesthetic thing, but I do think that they could have gone for a much more refreshing color than muddy brown. Here is that sizable sliver of the actual pool. I think the size of the pool for the resort feels fine, but the fact that you can only sit like 10 people near the entrances on either side is just an odd design choice. That said, this is a resort that prides itself on the open spaces that it provides for its mere 50 rooms. When I was being driven to my villa, the staff called out the sprawling 25 acres that the resort takes up, and quoted specifically that the current 38% occupancy rate would ensure that I felt like I had the place to myself. But I would imagine even at full capacity, it would feel very much the same. In the intro, the reason why I mentioned that this resort is perfect for guests who prioritize seclusion, the grounds, and service is in part because it's definitely not the resort for those looking to spend their days lounging on the beach, or taking part in a host of activities, especially family ones. The resort is certainly family friendly, but in much more of a buttoned up kind of way. Think more croquet and less boogie boarding. The beach, while small, is well taken care of and has beautiful views looking west towards Bali, with its volcanoes visible on a clearish day. Essentially on the other side of those trees is the Sierra, a resort that I reviewed a few months ago with the Gili Islands just in front of it. On that note, let's take a look at where we are. Lombok is nearly equidistant between Singapore and Darwin, a fact that I somehow found relevance in. It's just to the east of Bali, and despite having nowhere near as much tourism as Bali, the islands are nearly the same size in both land area and population. This sleepy little island has more than 4 million people on it. We are up here, around a 90-minute drive from the airport. The resort has one of the more unique layouts that I've seen in a really long time, with unique longhouses which contain 30 of the rooms. The other 20 are individual villas. Resort stays like this truly would not be possible without your support on Patreon. So if you appreciate these kinds of unsponsored videos, please consider checking out my page. You could also help out the channel continue to grow by liking this video and subscribing to the channel, or joining my YouTube channel memberships. Whatever you do, thanks for doing it. These are those longhouses that I mentioned. On the far side of the property, there's a pier and an activity center. Okay, let's go take a look at my villa, and time for a bit of full disclosure. I mentioned in a previous community post that I suspected one or two hotel brands, meaning brand-wide, not just a specific hotel, knew who I was, and Oberoi is one of them. I booked a garden pavilion, one of the rooms in those longhouses, and was upgraded to a garden villa. Is this special treatment because they know who I am? Maybe. Is it special treatment that they'd give to anyone who stayed at a half dozen of their properties during low season? Also, maybe. During my stay, this is the only thing that I could have identified as special treatment, if it even was that. Everything else was clearly the same for me as it was for all guests. The villa opens into an open terrace area. Keep in mind the chairs are covered only because of heavy rain that we had that day. Inside the villas, the experience is one that can only be described as very Oberoi. Whether modern spaces with traditional nods or full-on traditional structures, I love when resorts lean heavily into tradition. That said, this is where my comment about Oberoi not being in the correct century comes into play. This resort was built in 1997, and it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if all of these textiles, and some of the furniture, while all in very good condition, was from that time. This is not something that I've just seen at this Oberoi, but looking back, there's something about textile choices in nearly all Oberois that I've been to that are just a bit drab or a bit limp, or in this case, both. I think this is objectively just a fact about Oberois in their room choices. But then when you compare said choices to their main competitors in India, Leela and Taj, my god, it's not a competition in the slightest. Leela with their endless silk tapestries, and Taj with their beading and tassels and karate chop pillows galore. I simply don't understand the Oberoi aesthetic, and that's okay. But even within this aesthetic, I think it would be smart to do away with the outdoor plasticky wicker furniture used inside and all the limp textiles. Updating them would just breathe a completely new life into the rooms, even if they use the exact same color palette. It's all the more surprising to me that these things weren't updated in 2019, since the resort was closed for 11 months. In August of 2018, Lombok suffered a 6.9 earthquake, which affected the Oberoi. They were closed for that time, restoring their rooms and facilities. It just would have been a great time to update things. That's all I'm saying. By the way, one thing about the Wi-Fi, if you're experiencing slow Wi-Fi, just call them. Mine was painfully slow. I called the desk to ask about it, and they'd said they'd have the team bypass it for me right away. Bypass what, I said, and they just said they'll make it faster for you. So it would seem by default they throttled the connections. A couple oddities in the bathroom. If I ask anyone that knows anything about Oberois to tell me 3 things they know about every bathroom in an Oberoi, I can be sure that they talk about the Oberoi showerhead, which the late founder chose himself and never stopped talking about. The blue and gold Forest Essentials products, which are found in every Oberoi that I've ever been to. And finally, a large walk-in closet would always be present. Oberoi himself was known for making them a priority in his hotels, and some would say, the first to do so. So it was just odd that this bathroom lacked all 3 of those. That said, it is a large and nicely laid out space. I suppose that you could say that one of these closets is walk-in, in that you can walk through it. Let me talk about the service, and I kinda wanna just actually whisper the next part because I don't wanna light any fires in the comment sections. I think I prefer Oberoi service in Indonesia. Let me explain. Oberoi service is known for anticipating exactly what you need. It is the highest of high-touch service, but you shouldn't be surprised if you never actually see staff taking care of the things that you need. The other side of that is Oberoi is often noted as having service that is a bit cold and formal. Here in Indonesia, it strikes a balance that is the best of both worlds. It was just as attentive, just as high-touch, just as poised, and just as thoughtful, but it was also warm and just a bit more casual, which I personally really appreciate. I got trapped in my outdoor seating area for a little while with a torrential downpour, and then got ready for dinner, which I'd be having at the restaurant next to the reception area, Lombok. There were 3 other tables seated while I was there, and we were all spaced apart and the staff were absolutely incredible. I wrote down while I was at dinner, quote, "I'm pretty sure I have a bread waiter." And this is where the confident part of the Oberoi service style shines, especially here in Lombok. The staff performed their duties like a well-oiled machine, and they did so in absolute silence. The breads were explained in detail, and I'm pretty sure they make their own butter. As is standard at Oberoi's, I was offered reading materials. The menu, though really extensive, is not all they can do. There was a couple sitting 2 tables over. The chef, who clearly came to greet them every night, said something to the effect of, "We're lucky enough to have you here for quite a few nights, so if there's something that you're craving that you don't find on the menu, please just tell us. We'll be happy to prepare it for you." The service here is just simply standout. I wanted to do a mix of Indian and Indonesian, so I started out with the dahi papdi chaat, which is a yogurt and potato based dish topped with mint and tamarind chutney. I could have used a little bit more punch from the chutneys, but it was delicious, 8.3 out of 10. For the main, I had my ever trusty beef rendang, which, let's be honest, never looks good on camera. This was one of the better rendangs that I've had. They didn't try to fancify it like some other resorts do. It was simply a well-developed and rich gravy with impossibly tender pieces of beef inside, a 9.2 out of 10. After dinner, you might be in the mood for a drink at Tokek Bar. Bali, unlike the rest of Indonesia, is a Hindu-majority island. Lombok is not, and quite conversely, is known as the island of 1,000 mosques. They acknowledge this at turndown and offer earplugs, since the first call to prayer is, of course, very early. And early indeed, at around 4:30 in the morning. But to the horror of many of you, I was already awake. For breakfast, I headed to Sunbird, the outdoor cafe open for breakfast and lunch near the beach area, kind of hidden among the landscaping. My rate, which was very affordable, did not include breakfast. Two sides to this coin. I was a bit disappointed that they didn't have the amazing Oberoi breakfast menus that I've become accustomed to, but on the other side, I can't imagine how they could execute such a menu on such a small scale here. I went for the Oberoi breakfast, which oddly enough was designated as the American option, and chose Eggs Benedict as my main. Before that, I was served a fruit plate, some pastries, and a variety of homemade jams. The Eggs Benedict were very good. The hollandaise was simple and perfectly silky, the eggs runny and hot, and the bread toasted properly. Overall, I'm going to put them at a 6. They lost a point simply for deviating away from a breakfast formula that they're famous for and do really well. So, as we have a final walk around and take a look at the fitness center, let me sum up the good and the bad. The good. The resort is serene, and I imagine would be so even during busy seasons. The staff are both the embodiment of Oberoi service standards, while also holding on to their warm Indonesian charm. The design and the semi-remote location make for a truly escapist type of vacation. The not so good. The in-room choices. I'll just leave you with one question which I wrote down while I was there, and don't have the answer to. Where is the line in between old school, or traditional, and lazy or stubborn? This has nothing to do with the staff at this property. This is clearly a full Oberoi objective. I want my room at a luxury tropical resort to feel special and welcoming and elevated. And to me, some design choices here prevented that. So I really do hope that you enjoyed this full resort tour today, and let me know what you think about the textiles in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to click the like button and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on my weekly flight and hotel videos. I'll see you next time on SAS from Bangkok. Thanks as always for watching until the end.